Welcome Tarot Readers, April here with Tarot and Witchery, and today I'm doing a VR to Dani Mystic's #MyClassics. I really liked this video, and Dani is super fun. If you haven't seen her channel, I'm sure you have. She just is quirky and very original and very out there with herself, and I really appreciate that about watching her. So the idea behind this My Classics is these are the decks that sort of represent you, and so I'm going to go through why. Some of these you've probably seen if you've watched my channel where I read tarot, but some of these I just kind of read for myself, or I've had for a very long time. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 tarot decks and 5 oracle decks, and down below I have timestamps. So grab some tea or coffee or maybe some wine. And I'm going to go through these decks and why I love them. Starting off with tarot decks. Tarot deck number 1 over here. And this is so fun, you guys. I actually got my boxes out, and I've been working on getting my decks back into the boxes, which is really fun. Oh wow, I didn't even realize there was a little white book in this that came with this deck. That's really interesting. So deck number 1 is Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne Towler, and I always forget to put him in here, Michael Dowers. You can see I have trouble seeing with these glasses. Okay, so didn't even know there was a little book in there. It's got this awesome book that if you get this deck, you've got to get because it's amazing. I got this deck in 2018. I like the backs, something like that. I don't know. And I proceeded to dive into this deck for 2 years, probably. I mean, look at this magician, it's totally cool. And it's hermetic based, it's alchemically based. I love this 3 of Swords here, just amazing. There's so much symbolism in her deck. I really appreciate the layering, the depth at which she goes into in the book in talking about why she chose all these symbols, how they relate to the alchemical process. I am such a fan of Christine. If you get her book, you could just get her books, honestly. I have everything that she has published. She is amazing. She talks about the alchemical process, and you will go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And why I love this deck is because it did that for me. It really took me to a place where I looked into alchemy more. I learned about so many different symbols and ideas that I never had. She'll make this reference to a myth, in the book, and you're like, whoa, what's that myth? I got to go read that myth. And so I just, I spent a good solid 2 years studying this deck and making it my primary deck. And of course, if you have watched my channel, my other channel, especially in the when I was first doing it, you saw this deck a lot. Look at this Empress. This Empress is amazing. I love all the breasts on here, just like the mother. Look at, she's got the moon down here. You learn, on this one, the pages are related to seasons, so she'll have the season on there. And then, let me see if I can find one. Oh, there's another one, spring. Okay. And then she's got the astrology on here, which one of the court cards is this related to? And then it's got the actual deacon that this card, the 7 of Discs, is related to. So absolutely love this deck because I just learned so much, and it brought me into alchemy. It brought me into learning about alchemy in an incredible way. Deck number 2, I could not find a box in this room for it. It's the Druidcraft deck, the Druidcraft Tarot, and it's illustrated by Will Worthington. And of course, I basically have every deck that Will Worthington has illustrated because I absolutely love his art. This deck I chose because my heart is just so in this. I learned to read tarot years and years and years ago. Gosh, I guess I could not afford the books that came with them. And so I just kind of read from the hip, and I had 2 decks, but then later on, I decided, after I started collecting more decks, I decided to take a course, and I took it with this deck. And, I love everything Celtic. I love everything Avalon. I love, if it's Welsh, I love it. It's so me. I love the art style. I'm completely bonded to this deck. Not my favorite magician, I will say. But I love it. I love this deck so much, you guys, that I have 2 other copies. I have 1 copy in the box, which I've got because I do want to mod it. I want to cut the borders off. It's so comforting. It's so easy for me to read. I love the imagery. I think it's just beautiful. I love the coloring. It's very green. It's very earthy. Man, I love the renaming of some of the cards. I've spent so much time. If you don't have this deck, it's so worth it. And the book, order the one with the big book. Pay more money for it. Look, this thing is I've broken the binding on this. So worth it. It's so worth it, especially if you are into Druidism or the Celts. There's such a wealth of information in this. This deck is definitely classic April. This is the world that I want to live in if they had antibiotics and running water. Classic tarot deck number 3 is the Star Tarot, and this is by Kathy McClelland. I'm sure you've heard me talk about this in other videos. Beautiful. The fact that this is such a colorful deck, you guys, I'm a colorful person. I love the saturated palette. I love that there are nods to all different cultures. I'm very eclectic, and I'm really a pantheist. And so I find the divine, I find a win in everything, everywhere I go. And so this deck really has that. It doesn't really have a cultural grounding. It pulls from, it's an amalgam of so many wonderful, wonderful cultures. And so, you know, I will find nods to Native American spiritualism in it. And I will also find traditional symbolism, Rider-Waite. It's Rider-Waite inspired, yet a lot of them you're not going to see that. Like, look at this Hierophant, very different. Look at the labyrinth here. We're currently building a labyrinth. For those of you who don't know, we have about almost a half-acre lavender labyrinth that we are building. So there's a lot of labyrinths in here. Look at that, with his head open and the stars funneling into the top of his head. The imagery on this is beautiful. It is power-packed with symbolism. I love the colors. When I pick this up, I discover something new in these cards almost every single time. And I'm an Aries. So when I sat down to do this video, it was super hard because, you know, I tend to flit about. I tend to flit about things. Although I have Cancer rising. So there's a part of me that likes that the familial or the familiar. And so this is like a family member to me. It really is. It's just, it ignites in me. I love the illustration. Like I said, the saturated color palette just is so incredibly me. I love the saturation. I love intensity. I love being intense. It's incredibly esoteric. I love going deeper and deeper from an esoteric perspective. I can totally read these cards intuitively. I do not need to read the book. That being said, if you don't have this deck, it's worth it to get for the book. I mean, the book is absolutely amazing. Look, it's color. It's a treasure of mine, and it has all about the symbolism in it, so you can find out about it. And then she has such a unique take on the cards. So I have spent a lot of time, and look at this tower. Look at it. It's so exactly, I actually like the tower, you guys. I hate to even say that out loud because I feel like I'm going to get struck down by cosmic light, but I love getting the tower because I like change. I'm an Aries. I like change. And I know that when this kind of change comes in, it is from my higher self. I love how it goes right down to the core, and there's that dove down there. This is just absolutely, this tarot, it's amazing. Like, and you've seen it. I've read with it so many times. I've talked about it in other videos. I just resonate with it so much. Look at this Hermit. I mean, it's magical. It's multicultural. It's just all of the things that I feel like I really am because I have studied so many different things. I mean, here's this nod to the Grail, and yet here's this lotus. You know, yeah. Do I sound like I'm gushing? Well, I should be because this deck, I will always have this deck. It's borderless, all the things I love. It's amazing. What would classics be without a good old Rider-Waite-Smith? So number 4 here is my Rider-Waite-Smith, and I apologize, I cannot tell you the exact name of this one. You can only get it in Europe, I know that, through Lo Scarabeo, and it is the coloration that apparently that Pamela Coleman Smith wanted. This was the first deck I really spent money on. And you can see it's kind of wrecked, and yet I haven't gotten rid of it because honestly, I don't know the name of it. I don't know the name of it, and I'm so sorry for that. But what I love about it, again, is the saturated color palette. It's so colorful compared to some, it's more realistic coloring, like the traditional, like early decks that tend towards the primary color palette I don't like. This has like blended sky going on in it. It's just, I really love this deck. I reach for it over and over again. It's totally warped. It got wet, and but I love it. It's beat up. It's totally mine. I can read with it really easily. It's just beautiful, and you got to have a traditional Rider-Waite deck in your collection. At least I do. Deck number 5 is the Cosmic Visions Tarot by Jessica Shackleton. This is a little bit of a cheat, you guys, because I just got this deck about a month ago, but I've been doing it for my Mystical March Journaling Challenge. And look at the inside the box. Isn't that cool? It's really cool. I've been using this for my Mystical March Journaling Challenge. I love the backs. And I can tell this is classic me. And again, I'll tell you why. First of all, I really like black and white decks, but I love color. And you see the rainbow in every single one with black and white. I do have a full review of this up on my channel, so you can check that out. I'll have it linked below. I started working with this. I will say I do not like the kings and queens in this deck. They are children, and they should not be, in my opinion. I don't like that about it. But there's something about this deck that it hits me at my very core. It feels as though I've known it forever. It's Rider-Waite inspired, and it's like this deck gets me. I'm very much into the energetics of the tarot, and like, look here, you just see this is such, this is the Two of Pentacles, and it's just, it shows that energy coming down from the Pentacles and creating balance. It's like, this is a very energetic deck. I mean, look at this Three of Swords. One of my favorite cards, Three of Swords. She's being pierced, and then there's this rainbow being released, She's got this halo over her. This deck really seems to, for the most part, there's some cards I don't like, I must say. For the most part, it really intimates the wisdom of the card, the energy of the card. I get it on such a subconscious level. And like, this is the card that I studied right here, the Hierophant, for, that was the archetype that I did for our Mystical March Journaling Challenge. Look at this card. It's absolutely amazing. This card is brilliant. Some of these cards are some of the best renditions of these cards. Here's the monad, or the higher self, coming down and feeding the shaman. The shaman feeds the student, but also the monad feeds the student. There's a direct connection there. This goes beyond the trite meanings of the Hierophant, and a lot of these cards do that. When I look at it, the symbols, the fact that it's really big on circles, there's just circles everywhere. Wheels within wheels within wheels, which is really how I see the world. you know, spirals, and I love just the pop of color. This is one of the best Six of Swords. This is what the Six of Swords is about. It's about rising above whatever it is that you have been a part of. Look, it's being carried by butterflies. The boat is being carried by butterflies down the flow. Like, this is the way that you are to go, but you're rising above it all and you're choosing your path. You're flying there. So there's something about this tarot that it's classically me. I don't know how else to explain it other than I get this on such a subconscious level, and I just pick it up and I can read it and it can read me, and it's just, I know it's going to be a classic. I just want to let you know that I have links to all of the decks that I'm showing here down below. They are affiliate marketing links, and I'm going to make some minuscule amount of money off that. So if you want to support the channel and you want to buy this, then great. Next deck, deck number 6, tarot deck number 6. Probably no surprise. It's Chris-Anne's Light Seers Tarot. I'm not going to belabor this one too much. I think we all know this tarot, but it's classic because I read with it for clients all the time. I mean, all the time. I recommend this for children. I think it's a great first deck. I just feel like she did a brilliant job with this deck. And like I said in one of my videos, you know, I almost hate to like it because it almost seems trite, but it's a great deck. It really is. It's just so good and powerful. And like I love the coloring. I do wish there was a little bit more age range in there, but you know, again, this is classic because you're going to see it in my videos. If you get a reading from me, I usually use several decks when I do a reading for people, but you're probably going to see this, and yeah, so this has to be one of my classics just because you're going to see it. You're going to see it if you work with me. You're going to get it as a Christmas gift if you're a young person that I know. You know, it's so well done. All right, on to the Oracle decks, and I've got 5 Oracle decks here. So the first one, and I have to tell you, this is so Aries of me, but I'll get a deck and I just rip it open and I toss the box aside and put it away and I work with it, and I just don't even know the names of these decks sometimes. So I didn't even know what the name of this deck was until I hunted down the box, because it sits out on my shelf and it gets used all the time, which is why it's a classic. So number 7, no, 6, we're on number 6, right? No, 7. On number 7 is the Divine Energy Oracle. There are 63 cards in this deck, making it quite a bulky deck. It's by Sonia Choquette. Confession, I have never read this book. Like, I can't even tell you. Look, this is my first time even opening it. It hasn't even been, it's like brand new, brand spanking new. I've never read this, and I've had this for years. So there could be really good stuff in here. I don't know, but that tells you you don't need it, or at least I don't need it. What I like about this Oracle deck, and I use it all the time, is that it's just these little sayings on here. And it's very rare that I do a reading and do not use this deck. And that is why it's classic. You know, and it's so dead on. I can't tell you how many times I have been doing a huge spread, and the last card, I'd be like, and I just really feel like there's a lot of resistance. You need to learn to go with the flow more. And then you pull the last card. What's your word from your guides? Go with the flow. I mean, it's just so dead on. This is a deck that I would replace. As a matter of fact, I'm suddenly filled with insecurity that something will happen to this deck and feeling like I should order a spare copy of it. To tell you the truth, I bought this on one of those crazy, like, you know, when Hay House sends you like, we're having a sale, decks for $7, and it wasn't $7, it was like $10 or something. And when I ordered a bunch of decks like this, and I've just been so happy with it. It's classic April. I can't recommend this deck enough. it just really embrace your power, face your adversities, grieve your losses, be true to yourself, refine your attention. You know, I mean, it's great. This is such a great oracle deck. So worth getting. Again, I'm going to have a link down below to all of these. Deck number 8, another oracle deck, a staple. If you've watched a reading with me, you're going to see this. If you are new to card reading and you want to get into oracle cards, I'm going to recommend this deck to you. This is going to be the first deck that I recommend that you get. I think everybody should have this deck. I like it that much. All right, you ready for this? It's The Power of Surrender cards by Judith Orloff. Letting go is one of the most powerful things that we can do, and I find that that is what in every single reading that I do, you need to, in order to balance, there's something that you need to let go of. And so these are all about surrendering. And I will read one. Stay in the moment. Focus on solutions and celebrate every baby step forward. So there's so much to unpack there in each one of these. This is like, if you want to do a card a day, this is it. I actually draw one of these cards, every week when I do a weekly reading. And so I have a deck in here in my reading room, and I have a deck in the house as well. And so my weekly cards stay in the window. And so one of these cards will be out all week. So when I sit down to have a cup of tea, I look at it and I look at what I'm surrendering for the week, the lesson that I'm learning about letting go. You know, surrender your addictions. Surrender to complete healing. I mean, these are all just so good. Surrender to silence. In quiet meditation or contemplation, let go and let go and enter the stillness within. Silence can heal and replenish you. Sorry, it's actually really dark in here, you guys. I've been using this deck forever. I wanted it, and my daughter got it for me for Christmas years and years ago. So it also makes it special. But surrender denial. Accept people and situations exactly as they are without denying the difficulties. You know, because we do that. We're like, I'm going to just look at the good, or I'm just going to look at the bad. Then you can see things clearly and make the best decisions. You know, like I said, this is the deck that I would recommend if you were only going to get one oracle deck. This would be it. Perfect. I think it pairs with every tarot reading. All right, before we move on, if you've made it this far and you're liking the video, do me a favor and press that like button so that it gets recommended by the YouTube algorithm. Deck number 8, is that right? Or am I on deck number 9? Deck number 9. Deck number 9 is the Moonology deck by Yasmin Boland. And actually, I got this box out so that I could see who it was by, because again, I didn't know. I actually keep this out all the time, so it's not ever in a box. Now, I also had to get that box out because I didn't even know the name of the deck, as I told you before. Okay, so one thing I love about oracle decks is when they have keywords, but this not only has the keywords, but the moon phase, and I am a lunatic, so I absolutely love the fact that these cards have the moon phases on them. And, you know, it's kind of weird. I like the pictures, but what I really like is the combination of the words and the, I like this one a lot right here. Look at that. You're very close to achieving your goal. Gibeus moon. You know, it's like so close to full, so close, just right there. So I use this a lot in my readings, a lot. I think that's why I consider it classic April. I think this is, if you are into the lunar cycle and it's something that you really follow, I think you'll really find this, you know, and then it has, look, it has new moon in Pisces back here, you know, full moon in Sagittarius. So, you know, if you understand the lunar cycle, or it's something that you want to get into more, this will really get into it. I have to be really honest again. This tells you a lot about me. I haven't really read the book. I have opened it. I have looked at it. And I know that there are some suggestions in here, you know, like it's like attuned to the moon, additional meanings for the cards, and then there's the teaching, and then there's kind of like, it's like she just talks about it. So you can get a lot out of it like that, but I do not use the book. I don't. So true story, you guys, I followed the Grateful Dead and I did a whole tour. I did Spring Tour 90 and I did not even know the names of the band members. I could sing every word to every song, but I did not know the names of the band members. And that's just kind of how I am. I am not into, like, some people, they know the GSM of the card and all that. That kind of stuff just floats out of my brain. But I do know all the names of the Grateful Dead by now. Okay, it's been 40 years. Deck number 10, that's classic me, is the Whispers of the Ocean deck by Angela Hartfield. Now, actually, I am afraid of deep water. I'm afraid of snorkeling. I had a very terrifying experience when I was in Hawaii when I was young, but I absolutely love this. I have no animal decks that I like, but I just totally click with this deck. And again, there is a book, you guys. Again, I don't read the book. I haven't read the book. I know enough about the animals, and then so it's got this keyword up here, keeping it in check, and it says pay attention. So look, there's a little otter there. Pay attention to what is going on around you. You might be moving into something too quickly or missing some important details. I mean, it's so simple. I come back to it again and again. It's definitely like you could just do a one card draw. Sometimes I will do these where I'll put these energies to the left and then I'll read tarot after it to kind of give a story about why this is coming up in this aspect. Like if this were the money column, you know, like why am I getting rediscover your zeal? And then I would read tarot next to it. I find this is so easy to read. Again, I love the colors, saturated color palette. I love all of the sea creatures that are in there. And like sometimes if I don't know the name of the sea creature, but I pretty much do, I will look up the name in the book. But I don't think there's a sea creature in here that I don't super know. You know, I guess I don't know that one, of course, as soon as I say that. But look at this moray eel. You know, I love this card. I think it's a great card. Convey your meaning. Reflect on the way you communicate with others and with yourself. Be sure to express your thoughts and feelings from your heart with respect and sincerity, because you'd better respect that eel. So true story here, you guys. Starfish, look at that. True story. I don't eat animals or dairy. And I was still eating fish for about a year when I saw a video about a biologist that was taking measurements on the reef. And it came down and there was this moray eel, and every year it would come down. The person would come down and the moray eel started coming out. And it was that same moray eel that started coming out, and she would pet the eel. It would whirl around her. She would scratch it. It was like a dog coming out to see her. It knew her. And I stopped eating fish after that. That was it. That was the last time I ever ate fish. So last, number 11, I finally know where I'm at and counting the basics here. Last but certainly not least is The Queen of the Moon Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. And you will see, again, book is basically unread on this one. To me, that is a sign of a really good oracle deck, you know, where you don't need it. This is just wonderful. The keywords on here totally speak to me. The pictures completely speak to me. If you've gotten a reading from me, you may have gotten this. I use this deck a lot, especially like when I was doing weekly, I used to do a weekly forecast. I used this a lot. So I've had it for years. I really like it. I like anything that's lunar oriented. Like if I can find a good lunar oracle, I'm going to get it. Patience, nourishment. Look at this piece. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And again, it's got, you know, waning crescent on there. So it's got the lunar aspect, and I'm very familiar with, and here's void, like a void, of course. So, you know, I understand when the moon is between signs, what it means to be in a void, of course. So if you're into astrology, you do as well. Purity. Just, I love the images. I just find that it's so easy to read this. I find it's beautiful. It's mystical. It's magical. It's energetic. Like, you can see the energy moving. It's emotive, you know, and again, it's just, to me, it's very powerful. This just never fails me. And if you've gotten a reading from me, look at this discernment. Like, she's like feeling her way, and there's clouds over her head, and there's the moon peeking out from the clouds. So I find these are great, a great deck, great cards for working with tarot. And that's how I read with this a lot. Thanks for taking this journey with me. I had a great time doing this tag. Thanks to Dani Mystic. I have her video linked down below so you can see the original video. And there's a bunch of creators doing this if you haven't seen it. So you may want to check that out. You may be interested in checking out my other channel where I read tarot. It's right over there. And then there's a playlist of other videos down below if this one interested you. Until we meet again, may the cards always shuffle with a sound that you love to hear.
Magic is the conscious recognition of empowered focus.